everybody, what's up? KillJoy Jake here, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. The horror movie I have today is Don't Breathe 2, and first I'm going to do like a little non-spoilery review at the beginning of this video, and then it's going to tie into a spoilery review. So if you haven't seen the film yet, don't watch all of this video. We're gonna get into that in just a second here, but first I'm gonna need y'all to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Also, please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link for that will be in the description below. Alrighty, now let's get into it.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Well, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast!
You son of a...
God, don't do that.
But sometimes that is better.
I genuinely cannot believe I'm about to say this about Don't Breathe 2, a sequel that has absolutely no right to exist. I think it was better than the original, if I'm being totally honest with you. I have never been so floored by a thriller before in my entire life. It's kind of hard to call this movie a horror movie. It's more of a action thriller, but it is so fucking mind-blowing, bro. I'm gonna try to keep this as non-spoilery as possible. I will give you a warning when I'm about to go into spoiler territory, but basically this whole new movie, obviously from the trailer it follows what the blind man is up to, basically 8 years after the events of the original film. I am just blown away. It was fantastic. I think it captures, not only does it capture the tone of the original film, but also adds something else to it. It starts off pretty slow, but as you get into it, you're just like, wow, okay, this is insane. There is a lot of setup. There's a lot of things they have to do at the very beginning of this movie for the rest of it to work, but they end up doing it, man. I mean, it's a very strange movie, how it's set up. A lot of people, I feel like, will not like this film. Personally, I really appreciated it. The biggest question about this, though, that I'm just gonna put this in the non-spoiler territory. This really isn't a spoiler. A lot of people have this question from the trailer. The big question about this sequel is the blind man a protagonist in this film, which has been a big controversial issue. I would say no, but there's definitely a lot of aspects of the film that make you feel like he is. That's probably the only problem I had with the film. It definitely kind of leans towards him being a hero, which is kind of a problem since he is sort of a rapist, as we found out in the first film. But let me just tell you, that problem specifically is dealt with head on, with a single line of dialogue towards the end of this film. I think it was done really well. I think that's controversial for me to even say if you've seen the film. I'm gonna get into that in just a second. There is one protagonist of this film though, and it is the little girl in this movie. I don't want to say who she is or what she is. That's a huge spoiler as to what this movie is all about. She's definitely the protagonist. There's that. None of the other people are portrayed as the protagonist. There are points where I said it kind of leans towards the blind man maybe being the hero, which is problematic, but it definitely addresses that. A lot of people won't like the way they do it. I think there's no other way they could have done it though, and I'll explain a little further in the spoiler section. Overall, I was blown away by Don't Breathe 2. I think that it was honest to God, it's been one of my favorite horror movies of the year so far. It's definitely making the top 10 list somewhere. And to put a cap on this non-spoiler review, I did go into this movie with low expectations and my expectations were exceeded. So that's kind of why I'm really digging this movie right now. Honestly, if you give me a week, I might think that it was just as good as the original film, but right now I'm just so blown away. It's definitely more action-packed than the original. It does a lot of things better than the original too, but there is some problems with it. I loved it though. Personally, I think it's an easy 9 out of 10 for me. I'm about to get into some spoiler territory here, so this is your final warning. If you have not seen Don't Breathe 2, skip the rest of the video. You watched enough. I appreciate your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Get the hell out of here. All right, now get into some spoiler territory here. Obviously, this is super controversial. I'm just gonna get right into this. The blind man is kind of portrayed as the hero in this movie. Just a tiny bit. Not all the way, but I feel like that last line of dialogue that he has at the end of the movie where he admits, he's like, I'm a monster. He addresses all that in the end. I don't think that redeems him, and I don't think this is a redemption arc. That's the word I wanted to say going into this, on the drive home. I'm like, oh, he had a total redemption arc. He's not redeemed for an irredeemable act. But does he do the right thing in this movie? Yeah, like I said, I don't think that redeems him for all the shit that he's done in the past, because a lot of it's pretty fucked up. But do I think he did the right thing in this film? Yeah, I think he realized he was a monster, and that's the perfect way to cap off this story. I didn't think we needed that with the blind man, honestly. I didn't think, it was one of those things I didn't realize we needed this movie so much, but we did. Even when the guy goes to kill him, he wants to die. He knows he's a monster. Once again, I'm not saying he's a good guy by any means. I'm not saying he redeemed himself for an irredeemable act, but he does want to die at the end there, and he realizes the horrible things he's done, and he realizes how selfish he's been. That's where all this comes from. He's been so selfish, he got something taken away from him, and he wanted it back so bad he did something fucking terrible. He did something terrible 2 times. I think he tried to justify kidnapping the girl at the beginning of the movie with, oh, I saved her from a meth lab, she would have had a terrible life anyways. Still not the right thing to do, though. He should have given her to, like, that sanctuary or whatever where she does end up going at the end of the movie. That's what he should have done, but no, he was selfish and kept her for himself, and she wasn't happy. And that was the fucked up thing to do. Again, he is a monster and he gets what he deserves at the end, but he had a really cool arc throughout this movie realizing that. So although he kind of does have a hero's death, which is a little messed up to me, like the way it's done I feel like is a little too heroic. I also don't like the final scene of the movie where she goes to like the sanctuary or whatever, and she says like, oh, my name's Phoenix, meaning she's like favoring the blind man over her meth head parents. I didn't like that, if I'm being totally honest with you. I kind of wish at the end, when they were like, what's your name? She had a whole new name. Like, what if she just came up with a new name? Like, what if she was like, my name's Sarah? You know, I mean, like, that sounds really corny and weird, and maybe audiences wouldn't have gotten that as much because it's not something we've seen in the past, but I think it would have been a lot more cooler and much more intelligent if she would have just, like, had her own name. Maybe there was something throughout maybe, like, she had, like, a favorite storybook or something of some character she really liked. You could have used that name of that main character from a story. That final line of the movie makes it seem like she liked everything the blind man did, which it would have been a lot cooler if she would have noticed, like, realized that both sides of this coin are pretty fucked up. Which I feel like up until that point, up until literally the last scene of the movie, it addresses that, but I don't like the way that they capped it off. I like how they killed off the blind man. I think it's very close to a hero's death, but it's not quite there. I don't like how they did that with the ending, though. That's honestly my only problem with the movie. I think the rest of it is fucking suspenseful, terrifying, much more bloody and disgusting than I thought it was going to be. Easily with the suspense factor does it top the original. With the fucked up factor, it tops the original. Oh my god, her parents are crazy meth heads that want to cut out her heart and put the heart in her mom. I mean, oh my god, that is so suspenseful. I was like biting my nails at the scene where he's about to like cut her open alive. Like, what the fuck? Now, although I really liked it, I can definitely see the argument being made for, well, I didn't like that the blind man was seen as much more of a protagonist. I don't think that was intentional. I don't think it was intentional to make him the protagonist of this movie. This is evil against evil, this whole movie. And it's addressed in that final scene when he talks about, no, I'm a monster, stay away from me. If you didn't like that about the film, I understand. Personally, I think they dealt with it enough to the point where they didn't make him the hero, which is why honestly I liked it. Because the whole movie I'm watching it and I'm just like, this is awesome, like this is really suspenseful and great, but I wish this guy wasn't such an evil fuck. The fact that they address it in that last scene when he dies, though, honest to God, I feel like that just kind of saves this whole movie for me. Maybe you need a little more for that. Once again, I want to bring up this point that I don't think he's redeemed in that final scene at all. He is a tragic character. He does some really fucked up things because some fucked up things happen to him. It's not an excuse. He's a monster. He realizes that in his final moments. I think they did it really well. It wasn't the like consistently crazy and suspenseful movie that the original film is. It definitely has some slower parts where it has to slow down and explain some stuff, but it still is so suspenseful. When there's the suspenseful scenes or the horrible fucking kills and creative gruesome shit that happens to all the characters in this movie, it's messed up, man. It is like that level, it tops the original for sure. But like I said, I didn't love that last line of the movie. I felt like that was a little like, you're kind of making the blind man a hero a little too much. So there is that. I think up until that point though, they dealt with it really well. What did you guys think about Don't Breathe 2 though? Leave me something about it in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching my review of Don't Breathe 2. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more horror content. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm most active on my Twitter at KillJoyJake1, so make sure to follow me there. Please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link for that is in the description below, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.